Have you ever had one of those days where everything just feels right? The sun's out, but it's not boiling. There's this lazy breeze shuffling through the oak trees, and the only thing you hear is the steady, peaceful hum of your pool pump, doing its thing. A sound that for me has always meant peace, a kind of background music to a life I spent decades building right here in Fairmont Hills just outside Raleigh. I was out on my patio, iced tea sweating on the iron table, a book on my lap. I had zero plans to read, just soaking in the quiet. My wife, Eleanor. God rest her soul, she would have loved a day like that. She's the one who picked this house, told me Franklin, this is where we'll watch the world finally slow down. And for a while, that's what we did. That afternoon, though, the hum of the pump got joined by this other noise, a sharp, angry clack, 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 the sound of hard-soled sandals hitting the sidewalk with the kind of confidence that says, trouble's here, ready or not. Didn't have to look up to know who it was. Patricia Albright, my neighbor, self-declared keeper of the neighborhood's character, president, vice president, and entire membership of a so-called aesthetic committee she made up in her head. I've got patience. I do 40 years as a civil engineer'll teach you that anger's a waste of energy and a good plan is worth its weight in gold. So I just sipped my tea and listened as she marched up, stopped right where my lawn meets the sidewalk. She didn't even bother with hello. Franklin, your pump's making a racket. She pointed with a bony finger as if she'd just discovered a hazard that would bring the Hoover Dam down. I listened. Same gentle hum as always, 6 years of it, and never a complaint from anyone but her. That's how pumps sound, Patricia, I said. Means it's working. Well, it's disturbing the tranquility, she snapped, scanning my bird-chirping mower droning perfectly tranquil street like she was searching for someone to agree. It's well within city limits, and the HOA bylaws, I told her, which only made her blink like she'd touched a live wire. Patricia hated it when I quoted the rules she loved to use against everyone else. The real reason for her visit, though, was lurking right behind her complaints. That was always her way, a quick bait and switch. My grandson Bradley's graduation is Saturday, she announced, puffing up a little. Going to be a big affair, family coming down, important people, 75 guests. I wish the kid well, he's a good boy, not that I'd ever had a real conversation with him. Then she dropped the bomb. Which is why we'll be needing to use your pool. I just stared at her tea halfway to my lips, not sure I'd heard right. She gave me that tight smile, the one that says, your answer's just a formality. It's a pool party, Franklin. Our yard's too full of tents and tables, so for the good of the neighborhood, we'll be using your backyard. No asking, no real conversation, just a declaration right there on my property line that 75 strangers would be invading the only piece I had left. Now, this wasn't some harmless neighborly favor. Patricia had made my life a low-level hell since the day we moved in, 7 years of complaints about my mailbox color, my hedges, a stray newspaper 2 inches over a property line. Once she rang my bell with a dustpan full of grass clippings from my mower, telling me we all have to do our part to keep things tidy. It would have been comical if it wasn't so exhausting. Then there was the time she called the cops about my brother's car being suspicious, just because it was a Mercedes parked in my driveway. The dispatcher eventually started recognizing her number, but she saved her Riedel venom for my wife's garden. A year before Eleanor passed, we came home to find the prize. Mr. Lincoln Rose snapped at the stem. No footprints, but a hard-soled scuff on the border stone, the exact kind Patricia wore. Later that day, she walked by and had the nerve to say, "Oh, such a shame about your roses. Those deer can be so destructive." That's when I knew she wasn't just annoying, she was cruel. My happiness was like a thorn in her side, a reminder that things were changing and she couldn't stand it. So her request for my pool wasn't really about Bradley or the party, it was about taking the last bit of peace I had. I sat there feeling that famous patience of mine start to crack, not with anger, but with a cold, methodical clarity. "Let me be clear, Patricia," I said. "You're not using my pool. Not for your party, not for anything." Her smile faltered. She tried to guilt me. "It's for the good of the neighborhood. We have important people coming. It'll reflect on all of us." But I just stared back. My pool's not a community asset. It's the heart of my home. You or anyone else feeling entitled to it is frankly insulting. That got her. "What a waste," she spat. You barely even use it. Just sit here. What a waste. To her, my quiet was a problem. My peace was something to be invaded and repurposed. My use of my property isn't for you to judge, I said. The answer is no. She threatened me, then said she'd handle it through the HOA, reminded me she ran the architectural review committee. She even tried one last ultimatum: gate unlocked at 1 p.m. Saturday. We'll bring our own towels. Then she spun on her heel and stomped off, convinced she'd win just by sheer force of will. I knew then I couldn't just play defense anymore. People like Patricia count on you to back down, to give in because you want peace more than conflict. That's how they win. But I'd spent a career learning that sometimes you don't reinforce a weak structure, you knock it down and build something stronger. So I started making a plan. For the next couple days, she escalated, talked to the neighbors, painted me as the antisocial villain ruining a community event. I watched folks who'd normally wave across the street when I walked by, saw a petition show up on my door with 8 signatures, good people, mostly, but not willing to tell her no. I thought about that threat she'd made about her authority, her influence. That's when it hit me: the gazebo her husband built last year, the one that sprouted up over a couple weekends big as a carport, and I'd bet my pension never approved by the HOA. Patricia was so obsessed with other people's rules, she'd forgotten her own. That Friday, I sent a polite email to the HOA office asking for recent architectural approvals, said I was planning a project, just wanted to be sure I followed procedure. While I waited, I got ready for phase 1 of my plan. Saturday morning, 8 a.m. sharp, I started draining the pool. 20,000 gallons of saltwater hours to empty, but it made a statement: if Patricia wanted my pool, she'd find it a dry, useless crater. That afternoon, the HOA office emailed back. Sure enough, no record of any approval for that gazebo. By noon, the pool was nothing but a blue puddle at the bottom. I dragged a giant blue tarp over it, poured a fresh glass of tea, and settled in to watch the show. Around 1, Bradley came by, awkward, polite, holding 2 beach towels. "Is the pool," he asked, already knowing the answer. "Closed for maintenance, Bradley. Leak in the main drain. Just my luck." He nodded, turned, and left. Poor kid, probably dreading having to explain it to his grandma. Not 10 minutes later, here comes Patricia, bright yellow swimsuit, floppy hat, storming in like she owned the place. She took one look at the tarp at me, and her face turned a color I'd only ever seen on overripe tomatoes. "What have you done?" she screamed. I just shrugged. "Found a leak, had to drain it all." "Bad timing, I know. These things happen." She lost it, accused me of sabotaging her party, called me selfish, screamed about calling the HOA, the cops, the governor, for all I knew. I calmly walked over, locked the gate behind her, and said, "Your party's at your house, Patricia, not mine. Time for you to go." She wound up climbing over the fence in her swimsuit, a sight that just about put the cherry on the day. But I wasn't done. That evening, while her party fizzled out, no pool, no fun, important people grumbling, I sat down at my desk and wrote up a formal complaint to the HOA, citing the exact bylaw she'd violated with her unapproved gazebo. I included photos, copies of the records, everything neat and professional. Then, with the perfect flourish, I taped the manila envelope smack dab in the middle of her front door for everyone to see. Monday, I got the email. My complaint was official on the board's agenda. The next HOA meeting, Patricia tried to defend herself. Said it was personal. Said the gazebo was beautiful. Said I was being vindictive. But the board didn't buy it. The president read my letter aloud, passed around the photos, and asked her for the paperwork. She had none. Her husband tried to mumble some excuse. The board handed down fines, $500 up front, $50 a day, until it was fixed. Even better, they demanded she step down from the committee she'd weaponized against everyone for years. Patricia left that meeting stripped of her title and her power, and after a couple weeks, she had the gazebo torn down. Never apologized, wouldn't expect it. These days, she avoids me like the plague. Some neighbors have warmed up again. Carol Gable brought cookies, the unspoken apology for going along with Patricia's nonsense. We talked about her dog, not the party. I sit on my patio now, listen to the pool pumps hum, now a sound of real peace again. And I think about what Eleanor would have said. You didn't sink to her level, Franklin. You made her own rules trap her. I guess the lesson is patience isn't weakness. Sometimes the best revenge is justice, and justice is just following the rules that people like Patricia think only apply to everyone else. Sometimes standing your ground means having the patience to wait for the right moment, and the guts to drain your own pool to defend it. So, What about you? Ever had to deal with someone like Patricia? Did you fight back or just let it slide? I'd love to hear your stories down in the comments because trust me, you're not alone. Thanks for listening.